William Lusige. Lady Justice Lillian Mutende is the one who's going to be presiding over that swearing-in ceremony for Governor-elect Alfred Mutua. All right, so we will also want to just take a look at some numbers of just how the county assembly members have been distributed in regards to their parties. If we could just have the graphics to show that. And yeah, so there you have it, Machakos election statistics. The county assembly party numbers, as you can see, Wiper was able to garner 18 seats. The county assembly, Maendeleo Chap Chap movement had 9. That is Alfred Mutua's party. Then you have NAC, which had 2 seats there. Moving on to the next one, you have independents who were able to have 5 of them elected, and then you have the Democratic Party with just 1 person, and the final one, we have Muungano Party with 1 person also. Jubilee, just 1 party, pick one elected county assembly member. So that's just how the distribution was in regards to the county assembly for Machakos County. Chama cha Uzalendo 1 and Fort Kenya 1. Remember that Alfred Mutua is one governor who was embattled at some point during his tenure. He was embattled as MCAs wanted to impeach him, but that was not successful. But he has been re-elected, and the swearing-in ceremony is happening today. Let me come to my guest here in studio and just to discuss this. Now, Dr. Conrad, I want to start with you because you're a devolution expert. And this election saw quite a number of governors lose their seats. What does that mean? Does that mean that Kenyans now know what to expect from the county government, than it was in 2013?
Well, I think there is different ways that you can explain the results that have come out from the gubernatorial elections. But one thing that is very clear across all the elective posts in Kenya is that we generally have a very high turnover of elected persons to whatever positions. If you do an analysis of every election, you find that people lose, and there's no guarantee that you'll get back the seat. Even the nominations themselves were a reflection, because we saw big names fell.
Yeah.
So to that extent, I think we may not be clear on what informs that, but there's usually a high turnover, and there's all sorts of political dynamics which lead to that. But one of the conclusions that you can reach is maybe there is some governors who did not perform, and a critical mass of voters felt that we need a change. There's also the national political dynamics. Perhaps the presidential candidates campaigned strongly for some gubernatorial candidates, and therefore led to their victory. So there's all sorts of factors that you can mention, but there's that aspect it can't miss of voters looking at the performance, and especially perceptions about performance, not the actual performance.
Perceptions.
Yes,
all right.
which then informs voters.
All right. Charles, why do you think that this time around we had a high turnover of governors who lost their seats?
Betty, the reason why most of the governors, almost half of them, lost their seats is because these governors, most of them were not elected as people who really understood the role and the functions of a governor. And therefore, because most of them were elected with the excitement that he comes from our areas, because these counties, you realize there are certain dominant clans or communities. So maybe somebody was basically elected because he came from that big clan. But at the end of the 4-year term, they realized that it was not about us as a community, and it was about service delivery. Did these people really understood what a county government is? What is the role of the governor? What is the function of the county assembly? What is the role of MCAs? Because in most occasions you realize those who made these people to fail is because even the MCAs those who were elected were not people who really understood the role of oversight, representation, and legislation. That is why you realize most governors taking them to retreat to benchmark on devolution to countries that do not even have the devolved system of governance. And all of them go that they are going to benchmark. They only earn allowances, and you realize most countries spend huge sums of money on travels and those benchmarking trips. And in return, there is no investor, not even a single one, that came from those countries after benchmarking that this is what we are going to help you implement. Most of these MCAs were elected that this was a head boy, he used to ban school, he was strong, he could question. So the people did not really have an opportunity to interrogate. This time around, people understood, oh, it is not about your community being at the presidency. The most important person is the governor. And is the person who have all the resources to ensure that you have clean water, you have good sanitation, good roads, ECD center, health facilities, agricultural issues. So this is what people understood. Then they realized this current governor has no mandate and has not understood that is more important for us here, and they should not direct our attention that there is corruption at the executive, at the national government. And here, there is a devolved nepotism, there is devolved corruption, there is the devolved selfishness, and that illusion or perceived attachment of self-importance. Right. So the governor took himself as a minor king, that now his executive or a PA or a chief of staff is a minor god that must first of all put in a sweet frame of mind for him to intercede with the owner of the sky. Right. That is why most governors
lost. Stephanie, how are citizens or residents of different counties able to rate the performance of the governors such that they said, these ones must go and these ones can stay, or these ones are people who would want to try this time round?
Betty, I think Kenyans got tired. We got tired of going to the supermarket. There's no unga. There's no explanation for that. We got tired. The roads are full of potholes. We got tired trying to get our children into school. We got tired of going to hospitals. There's no medicine. And I feel like that is what our leaders forgot, that it is not about them. They are not fighting to become governors and MPs to get their salaries. They're supposed to be fighting for us. So while they were forgetting that, Kenyans were remembering that this leader, he brought this development to my place. This one, all he did was buy expensive wheelbarrows, which I do not even know how they will be used. So Kenyans got tired, and they went to it with that mentality. And I feel like we have really grown as a nation. We are starting to understand our democratic rights, our civil liberties, and that is why even right now, with all this contention, we are able to keep calm because we understand that there is a process and we are following it. Yeah.
All right. Anthony, do you think also the parties and, which party, which governor was affiliated to or which aspirant was affiliated to also played a big role? And I'll use one example of Bomet County. Isaac Ruto lost. But Bomet County is one of the counties that we didn't have a nurses' strike, a teachers' strike, a doctor's strike. Everything actually was still intact. Every time things would fall apart in all the other counties, that's one of the counties that still remained intact. But, I mean, Isaac Ruto still fell. Was it that he was affiliated to the wrong party in that region, or was it, just the residents wanted to try out a female governor this time round?
It's possible, but I think it's a cocktail of things.
Yeah.
In some areas, party dynamics. In some areas, I think it's just a reawakening as to what devolution is all about. And you will realize also the fights between county governments and the national government, I think, has brought that home.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to issues as health and so forth. And so there are places where you can say that there's a reawakening of people and saying, the people we want there must be people who realize what devolution is all about and who can run it. So I think both played it out. Because, again, you wouldn't explain Nyamira in terms of parties. Something must have happened there on the ground that made a Jubilee person win in what we thought was basically an Asa area.
Stronghold.
And the amazing thing, I think such a reawakening, because I know so many lawyers who, many of them were my students, who ran for MCA positions. Because if you have an enlightened group, there are people now running for MCA positions with a higher threshold than that from
requirement
qualification. And I keep saying, if you have an educated or people who know what devolution is all about down there and are able to, legislate local legislation that is, responsive to local needs, then you will start seeing even the obsession with the presidency is starting dissipating.
To dissipate. All right.
And I think that is the way to go. I think I really liked that when I saw it happening on the ground.
And we also have
I
an
always
independent
say,
candidate.
incidentally, I don't know whether Daktari will agree with me, that the moment people realize the role of county assembly as being oversight, then we don't need a Senate. Because that is where the problem is, because the whole Senate is a protector or the custodian of devolution. But when you look at how they operate their business, it's like the senator's work is to punch the governor. So it becomes a contest. And that explains why even many of them now decided to go and become governor.
Okay. We also had an independent candidate who won this time round in Laikipia, who won the gubernatorial position. But you wanted to add something.
Okay. Yeah, what my teacher is mentioning, he taught me at university.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he taught me
I met quite a number of his students.
Yes, so I think what he's mentioning is very important. One of the biggest challenges we had in the first term of county governments is clarifying the roles of the Ministry of Devolution, the Council of Governors, the role of the county governments themselves, and many other institutions, the CRA and all other institutions which are involved in the management of devolution affairs in the country. And I think the most controversial has been the Senate. But I think if you look at it and comparative experience in other countries which have senates and devolved units, I'll give a very practical challenge. For instance, counties usually have, or they complain about delayed disbursements from the National Treasury.
Yes.
And you don't expect all the chief financial officers to line up, the 47 of them, at the CBK or at the National Treasury to ask for the disbursements.
All right.
Or problems around policies at the national level which delay those disbursements. And I think that is a role which is well cut out for the Senate, which is at the national level that can summon the National Treasury PS or the CS or the CBK governor or whoever, or where the clog is in terms of disbursements. So, there are some aggregated roles at the national level, like national policies, national laws, oversight over national institutions which manage devolution affairs, which the Senate can take care of.
All right.
And to be fair, the Senate, for the last 5 years, focused on adverse relations with the county governors at the expense of their core role of ensuring that things at the national level are straightened to that extent. So I agree with that. There's an oversight role, but still we can differentiate what the county assemblies can do and what the Senate can do. Yeah.
All right. Gentlemen and lady, we're about to wrap up, but before we do, I just want to hear your comments about today is, the Requiem Mass of Chris Nsando, and, the elections came and the police right now, saying that, there's really not much progress that is being made into the investigations of the slain ICT manager. Charles, do you think that moving forward, this might just be one of the other cases that, somebody was murdered and we never get to the bottom of it?
Betty, first of all, let me also use this opportunity to publicly convey my sincere condolences to the Chris Musando's family. But it has been a trend in this country, once somebody loses a life or somebody is assassinated or is killed in mysterious circumstances, the first comment that we hear is that the police have commenced investigations and there are several good leads that are, and no stone will be left unturned, and Kenyans should leave the police and these institutions to do their work. Many people and many senior personalities have lost their lives. But for the police to come out and say there is no lead so far, this is a person that was found. There is fingerprints that should have been dusted. The place should have been secured so that at least, because if a person is carried and dumped somewhere, it is so easy that the forensic experts should have, at least by now, be giving people some leads.
All right.
But the police to come out and say openly that there is no lead so far, but it is a sad thing, and even these policemen and these people who are used to helping us doing this, they are human beings, they have their brothers. They should also that feeling that I'm called, this is a call, this is a duty. Let me serve my nation. Let me give people a response.
Okay.
But saying that no leads, no stone will be left unturned, and now many people, tomorrow there will be another death, Betty, you'll hear the police saying, this matter is under investigation, it is with the police, the politicians should not comment on it, no Kenyans should comment on it. But I don't think our investigation agencies have been doing enough to this country.
Okay.
They are not doing justice to us, and we only hope that at some point in time as a nation, we will have this institution properly functional and able to give Kenyan answers.
All right. Stephanie, do we forget easily? Because also, I mean, the case of Willie Kimani is still, we're still getting that, they're looking for witnesses. There's really no finality to it so far.
Kenyans forget easily, and it is such a shame, because how many people will fear to pick up these duties? How many lawyers out there are scared to speak out because of what happened to Willie Kimani? We might not hear from them, but they are there, and we don't even know how it affects us as a nation. How many people will fear to pick up these duties because now they don't know what their fate will be? And I feel like, as he was saying, the police have let us down in so many ways. In so many ways. And even us as Kenyans, we are also relaxed, because now is the time to ask what happened. We want to know, give us facts and all that. And that is the problem. Kenyans are so relaxed, and there's some form of mentality, I don't know what to call it, that is taking over us, that people can also excuse the kind of brutality that residents of Mathare and others and other areas have experienced. That people can say, it's okay, they're thugs, they're looting, let them be killed. But yet, up to right now, the police have not shown us these thugs. Who are these thugs? All the people that have suffered are innocent Kenyans. And we are trying to talk about peace, but those innocent Kenyans that are seated there in their houses, they had to undergo the trauma of the gunshots at night, fearing stray bullets, having to endure the tear gas. Are they at peace? Is that peace for them? So I feel like as a nation, we have to try and look at the key issues, the contentious issues, and stop being swayed by tribalism, political affiliation, and all that.
All right. Anthony, will we ever get to the bottom of this murder?
I hope so. You see, the unfortunate thing is this, and this was not a situation that should have been handled the way it was handled, because at some point there was CCTV footage, and they could tell where the good gentleman had been. And therefore, I think at times the police fails to rise to their calling, because this is a man who had such a sensitive position in an electoral management body, gets murdered a week before the election. So all sorts of conspiracy theories can arise. And that is when the police should be extra vigilant and extra professional, so that things are cleared up. Was it an ordinary murder? Was it a political assassination, and so forth? And those are the issues, again, that keep dividing people when they don't have answers to those questions.
All right. Conrad, your thoughts on that before you wrap up?
Okay, thank you. I think first, I also want to join my colleagues in giving my heartfelt condolences to the family of Chris Musando. And also, just to echo what my good teacher said, I think there's need for preparedness and also just strategic planning around some events. I read reports that Chris Musando reported death threats to the Central Police Station. And even recently, I also read somewhere that the chair of the ABC also reported some threats. I don't know whether it's true or not. But I think even before they report those threats, there should be an analysis of the security, given the past experience and all that, and provide that to persons who may need that in events like this. And having said that, now that the unfortunate thing has happened and Chris Musando is being laid to rest soon, I think the police have to move with speed. The latest I heard on these events that there's some people who are arrested. It's not very clear the basis of the arrests. Of course, we've not received regular briefings on these issues. But I also join in this skepticism on how the police carry out their investigation. Countless murders have happened and they have not been resolved, and even in some cases where you have evidence that if they could really follow up and preserve and present in court. So therefore, I think the police have to take some blame in terms of resolving some of these matters. And you would wish that the enthusiasm they display in closing down AFRICOG or Kenya Human Rights Commission, the same enthusiasm should be displayed when they are investigating murders which have happened, so that they can clear the controversies and the kind of tension that such issues generate.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. My panel of guests have been speaking to Dr. Conrad Bosire, seated right next to me. He holds a PhD in devolution, and he's also an advisor of devolution at the Katiba Institute. Thank you for your time, Conrad. I've also had Charles Omanga, who's a lawyer and a political analyst, and the lady on the panel, Stephanie Muya, who is also a lawyer, and last but not least, their lecturer. He's lectured quite a number of people. A law lecturer, Anthony Munene, also was here with us this morning. All right, so we will wind up the show here, but of course, Kivumbi 2017 continues in the next hour with my colleague Lofty Matambo. It is going to be a Swahili version of everything that we have been covering and other developing stories. So don't go away. My name is Betty Kello. We'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, be blessed and keep safe. Bye.